Pop is my lifeblood, the agency's lifeblood. It's everything that we do when it comes to content creation. Now, I can't say that there's 0% that's not done without Pops. I could
Okay.
just give you data upon data as far as great results that we have. These were just two that I happened to pick out, but
Hi, I'm Kyle Roof, SEO and International Gentleman of Leisure. Welcome to Pop Insights from the Inside, where I decode the success stories of Pop users and find out how they combine Pop with their own SEO workflows to grow traffic. Today I have Steve from the branding agency. We're going to dive into one of his client projects. Let's get started. All right, welcome, Steve. Thanks for being here.
it's good to be with you, Kyle. Thanks again for your time.
Oh, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, so tell us a little bit about your agency, what kind of services you offer, what kind of clients you like to take. What are you guys up to?
Sure, yeah, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. SEO based, we kind of live in the Google search world. Ideally, a perfect client to us is we've been focusing a lot on e-commerce lately.
Okay.
So I like to think that an e-commerce business is the type of business that absolutely positively needs us. Whereas if you have a local business, I'm not so convinced. At the end of the day, everyone realistically needs some type of Google search, but I tend to stay, or we tend to stay away from the local dentist, the local attorney. Attorney's a little bit better, but those local businesses tend to be a little bit more labor intensive and smaller budgets. Whereas e-commerce, if I can be in e-commerce all day, every day, I'd be a happy guy.
Yeah, local is often very labor intensive, a lot of hand holding, a lot of meetings, probably more so than expected from other clients for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us about the structure of your team. Account managers, kind of seniors, juniors, different teams. How does that work within your agency?
Yeah. So, I've taken more of a hands-on role. Before I was more in project management, if you want to say president, CEO. But as things have tightened up lately, I've been more involved in the actual work itself, which has been great because I've been able to have a better hands up, brushing up my skills in a sense, brush up on my skills, excuse me. But we have writers. We have one main writer here internally, and then we have a few developers. If you want to say, project manager who's a full stack developer that wears a lot of different hats. On the sales end, I'm more hands on the sales end. I used to
Okay.
have a team of salespeople, but going back to the local business, it's more hand holding than it's worth, I guess.
Sure, sure. The important question, or at least for me, and this is how long have you been using Pop?
That's a good question. I've kind of lost track. It's definitely at least been a year. Um, I'd have to literally go back. Time just flies, when you're, as you probably know, when you're working, you're down in it in a sense. But I'd say somewhere between 2 years and a year,
Okay, right on. All
somewhere in
right,
that
so let's
time.
talk about. You've got a couple clients that you want to talk about that you've kind of use your systems and integrated Pop within that. What type of clients are these? Like, what niche are they in? B2B, B2C, that sort of thing, and what do they offer?
B2C. So the first client that I want to talk about, they were doing really well on Amazon.
Okay,
They were in a sense an Amazon store doing great, but as you probably know, Amazon takes a pretty big cut of that. So
sure.
they wanted to go direct to consumer and really beef up their numbers. Just really do more direct sales. At the end of the day, direct sales is a pretty good buzzword now. I mean, everybody wants to get into the direct sale game.
Yeah, yeah. Why did they reach out to you? Were they new to SEO and they needed SEO services?
Yeah,
Hit by an update, fire an agency? Like, why did they come to you
yeah.
initially?
I mean, it's interesting. We had this conversation that a lot of these e-commerce brands really still don't know Google search. I mean, I find
Mhm.
it. I'm a little perplexed by it, to be honest with you. That it just really depends. They didn't have anyone internally at the end of the day. What it comes down to, yes,
Okay,
they had a writer, which made the project really go smoothly and cut down on our workload. Um, but they didn't have anyone that internally that knew anything about SEO. So they came to us. They came to me. I worked with them directly a lot in a more of a you want to call it a consultant type of a role where I was taking care of the content calendar, looking at finding our entry point as far as what we're going to target, as far as the keywords, things of that nature, as you probably know, or as you do know. Um, you got to start off less competitive and work your way up. You don't just start at the most competitive term out there with a site that has very little analytics or very little users and you know content at the end of the day.
So they're coming in without doing any SEO. So essentially, you're setting up their SEO strategy. Like
Yeah,
that
that's
you're kind of getting that going from the start.
from the start. Yeah, in a perfect
Did
again, going back to the perfect type of client, I'd like to have someone that's already been in it, knows exactly what they need, rather
Mhm.
than build it from the ground up in a sense.
That kind of leads into my next question. Because they're so brand new to SEO, did they have a goal or something specific besides like just like more traffic, or did you kind of have to even like kind of give them the vocabulary and the framework of like what goals can actually be?
Yeah, I hate to say it, both of these case studies was the latter, where um, I had to really make. At the end of the day, look, everyone wants more online sales, more direct sales, uh, more organic website traffic. But sure, I had to put together a 3 6. I always like to do it in that time frame, 3 6 9 12 type of intervals, as far as what we were doing, how we were doing it, and were we hitting our targets? Were we there? Were we above target? Were we below target? So um, yeah, I was responsible for most of that.
Yeah, setting up sprints is so necessary because if you don't have kind of that goal in mind by the end of the sprint, how are you going to evaluate the work that you did? How are you able to decide if you made good decisions, how the decisions going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have that, I mean, what do you have? I mean,
Yeah.
really, just you're just looking.
A chaotic mess, probably.
Yeah, you're just looking at data saying, "Oh, that looks good,"
Right.
You've
Yeah.
gotta set up some type of, accountability. There's no doubt about that.
Right on. All right. So let's get in kind of to the nitty gritty on what you did. A little bit about the strategy, kind of within those sprints as you're talking about, and the workflow that happens. Like for example, like are the same things kind of being done every month? Do you kind of evaluate like how does all that kind of work together?
Yeah, so the first case study was, they sold hair ties. This was with the, brand. They had an Amazon profile, an Amazon store. They were doing great on Amazon, but no direct sales on the website. Yeah, so what we did was, we started out looking at search query response post, buyer intent type of search queries, trying to find a good entry point where we can get some traction. Again, not going to the right into the deep end where the competition is extremely, difficult. Trying to find out what type of results that we would, get in the first early stages. So those first 3 months were, a lot of testing, trying to see what type of results, trying to see what type of placement we would get. We were able to get quite a few Google featured snippets, which was fantastic.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
yeah.
How did Pop work integrate into that workflow?
So they had a writer which made it really, seamless, and the writer was great. And the writer understood this type of software, has used this type of software before. But yeah, in most cases, everything that we do is realistically about Pop. Pop is going to work in conjunction with the content calendar. So I use Ahrefs or their Google Search Console. Try and find out, as far as the entry point, how to put together the content calendar. Where are we going to start? Going back to your some of the things that you say about the I forget the one person that you use the case study for, but try and find your lowest end on the impressions,
Mm,
highest end on the impressions. Find your average in the middle, and that's kind of where you want to, in a sense, stay in your lane.
sure. Yeah,
So
the tiers, the
tiers,
avalanche
yeah.
tiers.
When you're starting off with not much at the beginning, we just try and stay in our lane, get some traction. I say get some
Sure.
things on the scoreboard, but Pop's really responsible for just about everything. Once the content calendar has been established, a lot of search query response type of content, targeted buyer type of questions, and keywords, and Pop would be responsible for not only creating the benefits of having an agency account. You can add another user. We would add that
Hmm.
that user on there, and The good part about this particular client is the writer was A plus. I mean, she knew
Okay.
what was going on. She knew how to use the software. There wasn't much of a learning curve, which made it great. It's really tough.
That's nice.
Yeah,
That's not always the case with people
it's
that are
not.
writers for
This
sure.
was this was one of those types of scenarios where everything really just worked out perfectly. Um, Results, the client
Yeah.
relationship, and then the right having a writer. They had a writer internally, and the writer was really understanding how the software works. So there wasn't much training involved.
I like that term they use, kind of the insertion point, because that is something that's pretty interesting. It's like, where do you start with the project? That is often I think a lot of people actually get stuck with their websites because they don't know where to start. And that's probably having an SEO expert like yourself is probably one of the kind of underrated features of SEO is like just where do you even kick off from? I really like that.
Would you
That
agree
term a
that
lot.
kind of staying in your lane is something that I know, listen, you teach a lot of different strategies. You're a speaker. Would you say that staying in your lane is one of the most important things out there, or am I way off?
It's no, it's the absolute foundation of everything I do in SEO.
Yeah.
I wanna try to find where that lane is, I wanna post in that lane, and then I want to organically move up tiers, kind of building a moat of protection around the site that will only protect from the outside and then amplify anything else that I do.
So the good thing that I found out about, I guess, with AI and Google, and I guess Google having to work faster, more efficient, things seem to be getting indexed really quickly, efficiently, and
Yeah.
within a few weeks, a month at the latest, you're seeing results right away. Whereas years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, that is actually really nice. When you hit the tier correctly, you get pretty quick results so that it's like instantly hitting, page 3, page 4, maybe even higher without doing much. And then it only seems to rise quickly. I think you're exactly right.
Well, I think
I think
like to hear this. It's mainly been, and I'm not really pounding the chest, but it's been a lot of on these projects. It's been a lot of page one results early on because we've been finding
that's all.
the lower tier stuff.
What I always like about that too is essentially you're out researching your competition. It's not fairy dust. It's not magic this or that. It's like what we can actually out research the competitors and beat them just by doing better work.
Yeah.
That's what I was like about that.
Yeah, so this was the client that I mentioned that was, they did bring a lot to the table. Although they didn't have a lot of SEO experience, they had a lot of e-commerce experience, and they were doing really well on Amazon. And they had a team that really knew what they were doing outside of SEO. So this made for a perfect project. And this is just a 6 month charge. So I don't know. I think these are pretty impressive figures, but you
Absolutely,
may look at this
absolutely.
you may look at this and be like, this is a little
No, this
below
is
average, Steve.
no, this is excellent,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. So on this timeline, this is the during the time when you were doing the work, essentially the you
Yeah.
said it was a 6 month project.
Yeah,
Is
this
that
is,
right?
when we, started engaging. I don't have access to the, search console anymore, so I can't go in there and see what this actual number was, but, as you can see, this is 150 here. Well, that's clicks,
Hmm.
but it's pretty low. I mean, this was a little bit into it, but, because I know we started working with them in the late summer, and this is looks like, July, end of July, so, yeah, this campaign worked out. I mean, as you can see, this worked out fantastic. This is, a Google featured snippet that we should you work up out with your hair up or down. Um, they do hair ties, but they are for strong. I'm not in the hair tie. You may be more in the hair tie.
Maybe something I need.
Yeah, than me. I don't know much about hair ties. So what they like to pump their chest on is they were a very, I guess, wound tight hair tie, and they were used for thick hair. But I could
Okay.
just give you data upon data as far as great results that we have. These were just two that I happened to pick out, but this was a real
So
success.
let's talk about those featured snippets then. So are those on target pages that you used on Pop? Like you would
Yeah,
pop these pages
all of
and
them.
you're able to use the featured
Everything that
snippets?
you see here was again. Once we migrate from the content calendar, the content calendar, and we go back to finding your stand in your lane. I use Ahrefs in Search
Mhm.
Console. Ahrefs to look at their competitor keywords. Ahrefs to find a more overhead view of things. kind of compare where they are in comparison to their competitors. Once I've identified that lane, then I go in there and build out the listen. It's everything that you've said as far as the content silos, really pounding the topical authority. I've learned firsthand in my agency doing work for the branding agency as far as SEO in our blog, that topical authority is a real thing. I mean, you really need to establish that.
Love that. Did you find that where you're getting the snippets from like sections kind of at the top, or like maybe sections with H2s or something like that? Did you kind of see a pattern on where those were coming out from?
I no, it's really kind of across the board. Now, I do have a strategy where, you know, I specifically target, these. And when I say I have a specific strategy, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's I look for a 300 character encyclopedic. I know that's a really, really long word to, and I probably didn't even say it right, but a very,
I think you nailed it. You nailed it.
yeah, answer. So, and now
Okay.
with AI, this was pre-AI, believe it or not,
Hmm.
or just at the beginning. I can't say pre-AI, but I have a script that I put in for AI, and to get that Google featured snippet.
I love it. I love one thing that I've found with Pop is that you will increase the number of keywords that a page is ranking for. That's one of I think the big things we talk about. But I love also that you can get other SERP features, such as like hitting the snippet just by properly optimizing for the term, getting the content on the page as it should be, and then not only are you popping or popping, not only you're ranking well, but also then taking over the feature snippets is pretty awesome. That's got to make the client feel good too.
Pop is my lifeblood, the agency's lifeblood. It's everything that we do when it comes to content creation. Now, I can't say that there's 0% that's not done without Pop. So everything that we do is done with Pop. And
I really appreciate that.
yeah,
I appreciate you saying that. That's
no,
super
I
helpful.
mean, look, again, I'm not here to. I understand why we're here, but this may be a good case study for you, is because everything that we do is using Pop. I don't want to try and do it on. Look, Pop makes things life so much more easier. You don't want to sit there and
Yeah.
try and rewrite the book in a sense on your own.
Go in and start hand counting
Yeah,
terms.
I
Yeah, that's
guess
not gonna
that's
work.
something that you probably did in the early stages, and figured out how the in a sense how the algorithm really works. You probably would.
That's exactly right. It was done by hand to start, and we realized this is effective, but not efficient, not scalable.
Anybody that's not
But
using, look, again, this isn't a commercial, but anybody, it isn't. Anybody,
it is, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
anybody that isn't using these type of tools is crazy. I mean, because they do make life so much more efficiently, and with the integration, the API key for Chat GPT, I mean, you could just pop out massive amounts of I see people out there that are trying to do everything, the optimization work straight through Chat GPT, and I don't think that's a good strategy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's very accurate.
Well, it doesn't know how to optimize anything.
Right.
That's just kind of the bottom line. You mentioned the API again, just for people that don't know, if you're using our AI writer, you can insert your own GPT-4 key, and it only costs 1 credit to create your articles. So,
It's a no-brainer,
but
Kyle.
we're trying to help, like some things are kind of expensive, like to do the AI writer is a little expensive for us, but if somebody has their own key, we're happy to make it as cheap as we can do it.
They didn't have anything that was ranking whatsoever, and a month into the campaign, we got a Google featured snippet. This is only less than 30 days worth of uh, data right here from their Google Search Console, and one article is outpacing their homepage.